October 2019. Eastford, Northern Region. Rivergate residence. A modern high-rise by the river. Gated, with 24/7 private security and cameras covering every corner. The courtyard, elevators and stairwells. Residents believed nothing dangerous could happen here. They were wrong. On the morning of October 6, people leaving the building noticed something disturbing. On a concrete canopy below the apartments, almost at the same time, children in the courtyard discovered more shocking evidence. Within an hour, videos recorded on smartphones spread across local social media. Police and investigators arrived immediately. The entire complex was sealed off. By analyzing the remains and camera footage, investigators traced everything back to one apartment. 12th floor. A short-term rental unit. What happened inside that apartment remained hidden for almost 2 days. In this video, there are no signs of danger, no conflict, no fear. And that's what makes it terrifying. The live stream shows Emily Sutherland calm and relaxed. Nothing in the room suggests a threat. This footage was recorded 42 hours before her remains were discovered in the courtyard. After the broadcast ended, Emily stopped responding to messages. Her brother later said he barely ate or slept, trying to find her through friends and acquaintances. He called clubs where Emily worked. All dead ends. 42 hours. That's the gap between a carefree social media dance and the police being called to apartment 12. During that time, the apartment remained completely sealed from the outside. A technical analysis of the live stream confirmed the balcony view matched the location where blood-stained clothing was later found. This proved Emily never left the building after the live stream. Everything that followed happened out of sight. She was not alone inside. Daniel Carter was present, deliberately staying out of frame. The contrast between Emily's calm behavior on video and what forensic teams later found in the bathroom formed the basis for reconstructing the crime timeline. To understand how Emily's life led to that apartment, investigators went back 8 years. At age 10, she was taken by Child Welfare Services from a playground near her home. A long legal battle followed, involving courts and government agencies. Her mother, Sarah Sutherland, fought for years to regain parental rights. But family instability had started long before. Her father's alcoholism and constant conflicts repeatedly involved social services. Emily grew up in the state care system, moving between institutions, rarely staying in one place. Her brother later said, "That's when our family stopped being a family. She survived the system. She didn't survive that apartment." By 2019, social services had deemed both homes unsuitable for a minor. The institution where Emily spent much of her childhood confirmed they were aware of her situation but declined to comment further to journalists. In April 2019, Emily turned 18. Leaving the state care system meant finding her own place to live and earning a living. She returned to Eastford and moved into her mother's apartment, Sarah Sutherland. This marked the beginning of her independent work life, details of which her family knew very little. Records show that a month before the events on Bogomolkovo Street, Emily started working in the city's nightlife industry. In September 2019, she was employed at the club Ignite. But shortly before her death, she moved to another club, Roxy. This change also expanded her social circle. Through these new connections, Emily became involved in the events that led her, on October 4, 2019, to the rented apartment. Investigators confirmed that evening as the first meeting between Emily and Daniel Carter. Prior to that night, they had no mutual acquaintances and no contact through social media or messaging apps. That evening, the 38-year-old man was heavily intoxicated. Court records show that Daniel had rented the apartment in the Rivergate residence under his own name. CCTV footage captured their movements together. Late that night, Emily and Daniel entered the gated complex. They passed the security checkpoint and headed to the elevator lobby. At no point did Emily make any action that could be interpreted as a call for help. She followed him voluntarily. From that moment, the 19-year-old was inside the secure perimeter of the 12th floor. As the leaseholder, Daniel had full control over access to the apartment. Investigators later noted that drinking continued inside. What started as a brief acquaintance in public moved into an isolated private space. For the next 42 hours, no neighbors or security staff saw anyone enter or leave apartment 12. Daniel Carter's background was already well documented in court archives. He was born and raised in a small village in northern region. By age 38, he had no permanent address, no official employment, and no family. He had never been married and had no children. Police records showed that he had served time twice in prison, with prior convictions including robbery and violent crimes. These facts indicated he had experience committing serious violent acts, including sexual offenses. The reason someone with this past could move freely into a secure building was simple. He personally rented the apartment, provided his documents, and paid for the lease. This allowed him to pass through private security and gain keys to apartment 12. Investigators found that Daniel's days were mostly spent drinking, and he had no purpose outside of leisure. Choosing a secure, isolated building allowed him to operate without interference. His criminal experience made him capable of navigating situations requiring secrecy. Thus, the tenant's identity became the key to understanding how a crime could be committed in a modern building with 24/7 surveillance, and remain undetected for nearly 2 days. Daniel Carter's past established the main context for his encounter with Emily. His history showed a propensity for aggression, and the lack of social ties made his movements around the city difficult to track. Until he left his personal information when signing the lease. The detailed search of apartment 12 began immediately after Daniel Carter was removed from the premises. Investigators started documenting items that confirmed the presence of 19-year-old Emily Sutherland in the space. On kitchen surfaces and in hallway cabinets, forensic experts found her personal belongings. Among the seized items were a set of keys and a mobile phone. The living areas appeared orderly. No signs of a struggle, no overturned furniture, no broken dishes. This indicated that Daniel either acted extremely quickly or spent time restoring the apartment before disposing of evidence. Special attention was paid to all sharp and cutting tools. All kitchen knives and household implements were seized for DNA testing. Despite cleaning attempts, microscopic traces of organic material remained on some of the tools. Bedding and pieces of carpet were also collected. And under UV light, hidden stains invisible to the naked eye were detected. Daniel's clothing from the moment of arrest was packaged for DNA analysis. Receipts and empty alcohol containers found in the trash helped investigators reconstruct his purchases between October 4th and 6th. It showed he left the apartment only to restock alcohol, returning each time to the isolated space containing evidence. On October 8, 2019, the Central District Court of Eastford began reviewing the case. The head of the Second Department for Investigating Major Crimes petitioned to extend Daniel's detention by 72 hours, to secure the evidence and conduct additional tests. Case materials were moved to regional authorities due to the extreme severity of the crime. Within the first 2 days, investigators located 2 witnesses, who confirmed that Daniel and Emily were in the same location on the day she disappeared. During initial questioning, Daniel denied involvement, claiming no direct witnesses existed. But the overwhelming evidence, biological tests, CCTV footage, and physical evidence, pointed to him as the sole person present in the apartment when Emily died. On October 11, 2019, a closed court hearing determined pretrial detention. Under pressure from the evidence, Daniel confessed to the murder. He was subsequently arrested for 2 months. This official confession allowed investigators to reconstruct the exact sequence of events, leading to Emily's death on the night of October 6. On the evening of October 4, Emily and the tenant were together in apartment 12. Both consumed strong alcohol. At some point, a verbal argument broke out. Investigators determined the aggression was sudden, fueled by Daniel's severe intoxication. The conflict escalated into a physical attack in the living room. Daniel struck Emily multiple times to the head and body, rendering her unable to resist. He then proceeded to choke her. Death occurred due to mechanical asphyxiation. After Emily Sutherland stopped showing signs of life, Daniel Carter did not leave the building, nor did he attempt to call emergency services. On October 5, he remained alone in the apartment with her body, continuing to drink alcohol he had purchased earlier. It wasn't until the night of October 6, when the effects of alcohol faded and he realized the evidence around him, that he began trying to cover his tracks. Daniel moved Emily's body into the bathroom, and using kitchen tools, carried out dismemberment. This all took place in the twilight hours, when activity in the building was minimal. The final stage of his actions occurred between 3 and 5 a.m. on October 6. He carried body parts onto the 12th floor balcony and dropped them below. At first, blood-stained clothing appeared under the windows, followed by the remains. He had assumed that the height and nighttime conditions would keep his actions unnoticed. But fragments scattered across the canopy and surrounding area, making the crime obvious at dawn. The trial for Emily's death began in early 2020. On February 19, the Central District Court of Eastford announced the charges. Murder under Article 105, Part 1 of the Criminal Code. The maximum sentence under this law is 15 years. The prosecution built its case on Daniel's confession, CCTV footage, and extensive forensic evidence collected from the apartment. The court determined his actions were intentional. Considering the severity of the crime and his prior convictions for robbery and violence, the sentence approached the maximum. Daniel Carter was sentenced to 14 years in a high-security prison, the strictest type of correctional facility for repeat offenders who committed serious crimes. The court also approved a civil claim for moral damages, ordering him to pay 2 million rubles to Emily's grandmother. During hearings, the family demanded the harshest possible sentence, citing the concealment of evidence and handling of remains. Daniel remained calm in court, listening without response. On May 22, 2020, the Central District Court considered an appeal. The defense tried to challenge the severity of the sentence, but the higher court upheld the ruling. The sentence came into full effect, and Daniel was transferred to serve his term until 2034. 3 years later, his sentence was interrupted. Instead of serving the full 14 years, he spent less than a quarter behind bars. In 2023, Daniel signed a contract to participate in a special military operation. This legal procedure allowed him to leave prison early and change his status from inmate to soldier. After completing his service, he received a pardon, fully nullifying his remaining obligations for Emily's murder. He returned to civilian life as a free man, but his freedom was short-lived. According to official law enforcement records, soon after his release, Daniel committed another serious crime, a second murder. This fact became known to Emily's family, who realized the justice system had allowed a convicted murderer, with a history of robbery, violence, and dismemberment, to evade full responsibility and commit a new act of violence. Daniel Carter is once again under investigation, with new charges added for committing a repeat crime as a recidivist. For Emily Sutherland's family, the 2020 trial was no longer the final chapter. Years after her remains were discovered on Bogomayakovo Street, Eastford law enforcement is dealing once more with the same individual, whose early release led to the death of another victim.